In this video, we are looking at drawing quadratic graphs. So before we draw them, there are a few notes we need to go through. So the first note is that quadratic functions always have x squared as the highest power of x. So x squared plus 7, x squared plus 3x plus 4. So those are examples of quadratic functions. The second point is that the graphs of quadratic functions are always the same shape, and that's called a parabola, which is the curve shape you see here. The third point is that all quadratic graphs are symmetric about their lowest or highest point. So there are two different shapes that you can get with quadratic graphs, and it all depends on the coefficient of x squared. And that's just the number in front of x squared. So if the coefficient of x squared is a positive number, then the graph shape is a U shape, like this. But if the coefficient of x squared is negative, so there's a negative number in front of x squared, then the graph shape is upside down in an N shape, like this. So an example of a positive quadratic graph is something like y equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. So the coefficient of x squared is positive 1 there. And an example of a negative quadratic function is minus 2x squared plus 4. So the coefficient of x squared is minus 2 there. So let's now go through an example of drawing a quadratic graph. So to draw a graph, a quadratic function, you need to produce a table of values. Now, drawing graphs and sketching graphs are two very different things, and we're focusing on drawing today. So drawing the graph of y equals x squared minus 2. So I've decided to go with x values between minus 4 and 4. Normally the question will tell you, and there is my x and y axis with some numbers on them. So what x squared minus 2 is asking us to do is to square our x value and then subtract 2 from it. So I'm going to start with 4. So 4 squared is 16, take away 2 is 14. 3 squared is 9, take away 2 is 7, and so on. I normally start with the positives just because I find that easier. And then finally, you can plot those points as coordinates on your graph, and then just make sure to join your points across. And that's virtually all you're doing to draw a quadratic graph. Now, just as an add-on to this video, I am going to very briefly go through something called the line of symmetry. So as we mentioned before, all quadratic graphs have a line of symmetry. So if we have this example here, we're looking at where the graph is changing direction. So as you can see, where x is minus 1, the graph starts to go upwards. So the line of symmetry is going through that point. Now, a couple of points. The vertical line means x equals a value, and a horizontal line means that y equals something. So in this situation, we have a vertical line going through the point x equals minus 1, so our straight line is x equals minus 1. And if your graph was upside down, so you had a negative curve and it was an N shape, again the graph would still have the same line of symmetry, because if it's going through minus 1, that change of direction, then that would be our line of symmetry. And that's it.